hey, give us, let the hostages go and then we can talk. He says, it's mental. These guys are tactical. So they don't respect what we do. And then Miller asked him about, the hospital. And unfortunately, the hospital thing that they worked on years ago didn't end well. It turns out that the guy killed his girlfriend and killed himself. So back in the bank, everyone's dressed the same. And then you can kind of see that these guys are up to something, but it's not necessarily a robbery because they're not exactly taking anything yet. They have everyone dressed the same. They have them all split up into separate rooms and separate groups. And then I think at this point is when we get our first flash forward. And it flash forwards to this guy in what we later find out is an interrogation room, although that's not necessarily clear in the beginning. And he's talking about, I was scared. I was scared I wasn't going to see my family again, my wife, my kids. But we start getting the sense that they're piecing this story together later on, as we will be too. And a lot of it is happening through this interrogation. Now, why they were interrogating, some of the people, we don't find out exactly just yet, but we will later on. And I think even when the bank manager gets interrogated, he basically lays out what they were up to, saying that they had the ingenious plan of kind of moving them around, keeping them disorientated. They have masks. They make everyone wear a mask. And it's just, they keep moving the people around so that they're not comfortable at all. And you later find out that the reason for that is because the accomplices are hiding out amongst the hostages.
Yeah, so they can't really pinpoint who is who.
Yeah, so that they can't tell, who was a hostage, who was one of the robbers. And while they're doing this, kind of each one of the accomplices is kind of purposefully seen as, or seen without their mask on at one point. Mm-hmm. By the other hostages, just so that they have the alibi. And then we meet one of our other players, and that's Jodie Foster's character. And she's sitting down interviewing someone who we later find out, although it's kind of assumed the way she's talking to him and how she talks to him when he leaves, that this is the nephew of Osama bin Laden. Mm-hmm. That he's trying to buy a condo or an apartment or some real estate, and she's helping him out with it. But you get the sense through this conversation that she's having with this guy, and how she gets a call from Arthur Case during this, that she's a fixer. She's the one that's kind of making these deals. She's the one that's going to fix your problem if you have one. And what's cool about it is through this scene and one of the very next scenes where she's actually talking with Case, you get the idea that this is what she does, even though it's never really said exactly what she does. She's the problem solver. So here's some casting that I read, which was really confusing to me, kind of. And let me see what your take on this is. Marcia Cross, who I don't know if you know who that is. Bright red hair, can't miss her. You probably would know her if you saw her. Was originally cast as the Madeline White role, the Jodie Foster role. she had to step down because she had commitment to Desperate Housewives, which was on the air at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, they offered the role to Jennifer Love Hewitt, but she had to turn it down because she was working on her TV show Ghost Whisperer. They offered it to Jennifer Jason Leigh, Rachel Nichols, Kate Hudson, Rachel Lee Cook, and Jennifer Connelly. They all had to turn it down, and then they went with Jodie Foster. I don't know why Jodie Foster was kind of lower on that list. She'd be the top of mine out of that group.
Yeah.
But the odd thing to me is, with the exception of Jennifer Jason Leigh and Jennifer Connelly, Marcia Cross aside, because that's who was originally in that role, Rachel Nichols, Rachel E. Cook, Jennifer Love Hewitt, they all seem a little young for that role.
Yeah, to be looked at as a kind of like because that's like the strong, if not one of the only females, the strongest female, bar none, in that film,
Yeah, and given her role as kind of like the fixer and the problem solver, you figure that she would have had to have been around long enough and had to have made lots of connections and relationships with these people to be able to fulfill that role. And, I'm not trying to hate on anyone, but those other four actresses are pretty young, in my opinion. So it seemed like odd casting choices. Now, luckily, none of them were actually got the role, or they had all turned it down. And especially because she, as we see later on in the movie, she goes toe to toe with the other three male leads in the film, and I honestly don't see those younger actresses going toe to toe with any of the other guys.
Yeah. I completely agree. I think that would have been a huge misstep if, like, Rachel Lee Cook and Jennifer Love Hewitt. I don't see it.
Yeah, that's an odd. Those are odd casting wishes. Like I said, Marcia Cross makes sense because she's older. Jennifer Connelly and Jennifer Jason Leigh are both, that age where it would have made sense.
Maybe that was like a kind of a marketing scheme where they could promote somebody that, to get some younger people in the seats at that time. Maybe I would hate for it to have been for that to have been the real reason, because, hey man, make a good movie, put out a good movie, and the audience will be there. But yeah, maybe that was, I had Rachel E. Cook and Kate Hudson, Jennifer Love Hewitt, they were all pretty big at that time. Rachel Nichols, I don't think is as big, but the other three definitely. Or they had been in, bigger roles and bigger movies before. But to me, that just seemed odd. They just seemed really young for that role. At that time, they were probably mid-20s at best, all of those actresses. Whereas Jodie Foster and Marcia Cross and Jennifer Jason Leigh and Jennifer Connelly were probably mid-40s. Maybe even a little bit older. I don't know, everyone's exact age, but I would ballpark them at that time to be, mid-40s. I think I think Jodie Foster is probably a bit older because, she was been around since the 70s. Yeah. Although Jennifer Connelly is probably close to her age, because Jennifer Connelly was in a lot of a lot of movies in the early 80s. Jodie Foster had a string of pretty big films, right? Like the around this time, like the Brave One and Flight Plan.
Yeah, I think Flight Plan is just before this, and The Brave One is just after this. So she doesn't do a whole lot now. She pops up from time to time, but I know that she still directs from time to time as well.
Mm-hmm.
But she doesn't pop up in as many films as an actress.
I just, speaking of Jodie Foster, I just rewatched Panic Room the other night.
Panic Room is great.
Yeah, so fucking good. And she's really, really good in it. Yeah.
Yeah. If we're going to go off onto a David Fincher tangent really quick, she wasn't supposed to be in that movie. It was originally Nicole Kidman.
Really?
Nicole Kidman had, I don't think broke her ankle, or not her ankle, had hurt her knee doing Moulin Rouge just before Panic Room. So she had to drop out of Panic Room, and that's where Jodie Foster came in.
Wow, so she just got it kind of by luck?
Yeah. Although her and Fincher had crossed paths before because she was supposed to be in the game, and it didn't work out. She was supposed to be Michael Douglas's sister as opposed to his brother, which turned out to be the Sean Penn role. And I don't know why that didn't work out, but that's why when Nicole Kidman dropped out of Panic Room, they went with Jodie Foster. But trivia, the voice on the phone when she calls the ex-husband, then the wife answers, the new wife answers, that's Nicole Kidman.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And if you go back and watch it, it's definitely Nicole Kidman. You can hear her voice.
Where when Jodie Foster's just like, put him on the phone, bitch, or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. That's Nicole Kidman, who was supposed to be that role. So Madeline goes downstairs. She takes the call from Case. Case explains that, he wants to talk with her. So she goes downstairs, and there's a great scene of them just walking along Battery Park. And she's saying, hey, I know that this is something big because usually, it's your people that call me, or you have people that can handle this. The fact that you're not talking to these people and you're talking to me means that this is something that you want to have kept secret. Not even your family or your close associates are supposed to know about whatever this is that you want me to fix. And, she sniffs out that he's got something to hide. And, she basically says, hey, I'm here to protect your interests, but you better not lie to me. If I find out, you tell me that what's in the safety deposit box is this thing, and it turns out to be the nuclear launch codes, then we're going to have a problem. And he says, no, it's nothing like that. This is something very personal. But, if it were to be found out, I would face difficult questions. So the thing with the safety deposit box is either that stuff can be, either it's a secret, the box isn't opened, or the box disappears. But whatever is in the box that's in that bank that Arthur Case is hiding, he doesn't want it found out. So they release a couple hostages back at the bank. They release an old guy that was having some heart trouble. And then when they kick him out, he's dressed in the painter's uniform. The cops surround him. And they don't know who it is. They could be the robber, so they're treating him as such. And he's down on the ground, and he's yelling, and he's obviously having trouble. And he says, hey, if anyone tries to come into the bank, they'll kill more hostages. And they're like, well, who said that? And he's like, I don't know who. The guy with the big fucking gun said that. And then they release Vikram, who is played by Waris Ahluwalia. I hope I'm saying that right. Who worked with Willem Dafoe in The Life Aquatic, just